Before you, you have two bows that I just finished sinew backing. One is wrapped with gauze, the other one is sitting on my little jig here in front of the Beaver of Wisdom. Just recently completed. I'm going to let it set up a little bit before I mummy wrap it with some gauze. And the reason why I'm letting it set up a little bit is I'm not worried about the gauze sticking to it. What I don't want to have happen is when I'm wrapping it, you have to have even pressure as you're going around the bow. And if you do it lightly coming from the bottom and then pull it to tighten it, you're going to shift the sinew sideways, and that's no good. You can actually, by applying a lot of pressure underneath it, putting it over the top and then releasing it a little bit, you can slide the sinew back. So you can actually steer your sinew. But that is not the crux of this discussion here. If I search how to sinew back bows, or if the Beaver of Wisdom searches on YouTube, how do you sinew back? You're going to see a very similar method. You're going to see a double boiler, and on that double boiler, a pan with water on it and a bowl within it with a glue mixture. You're usually going to see a whole bunch of little bundles of sinew that you put up. You dip it in the hot glue mixture. You let it soak a bit, soften up, wring it out, apply it onto the bow and brickwork pattern. But I don't do that. I'm thinking, as I usually do. It's, how did the people back in the day do it? Now, one clue is, I read that the First Nations people along the West Coast, amazing paddle bow makers, sinew back. They weren't all paddle bows. Some were pyramid bows. Some were more parallel limbed. They would wrap it with cherry bark to squeeze out the excess glue. Now, what I found in my experience of sinew backing one or two bows over my 35 years of life, I'm being quite sarcastic here, is that when you use the method where you have, it's relatively thick glue mixture because at room temperature it turns into a hard jello. You sinew back a bow with that, you wrap it tightly, you're not getting glue squeezing out unless you didn't wring it out or used excessive amounts. Where you get glue squeeze out is if you use a more watery mixture. It's a clue. How did they do it back in the day? If when they wrapped it to squeeze out the excess moisture, it means that it was a thinner glue mixture. A mixture that I use now. And I find that I will wring out a glue mixture because it's so watered down. I actually, well, let's see here. Take a tendon. In French, they call it tendon. I will pound it and separate the various pieces, and I'll get these. Then I'll take these pieces and pull them into finer fibers. Now, if I take these pieces and I just do a quick under the faucet, I can turn it into smaller fibers with a lot less waste. Although this isn't waste, this is these sinew scraps right here that I've developed over the course of today. You get a lot, sore thumbs. So that I can make glue out of it. Very low heat for a long time. You don't want to boil the heck out of it because you're going to break down the protein chains and it won't be as good a glue. The longer and lower the heat, the better. But the issue with if you have wet sinew fibers and you let them dry out, they're going to be hard as a rock and they're not going to absorb glue and they're going to be miserable to sinew back a bow. But I do a different method. I could literally take a Ziploc bag, take all my prepared fibers, smaller than this, stick those fibers in a Ziploc bag, all kind of stacked up, although they get messed up over the period of time of pulling them out and grabbing 3 or 4, how many you need, and then putting it on the back of the bow. But if you take that and you put it in almost a watery mixture, there's glue in it. But how much glue do you need? That old axiom that we guys use, if a little is good, a lot is better, doesn't apply. You can have a glue mixture that's thin enough that at a 68, 69, 70 degree room temperature, maybe just putting on a stove just to warm it up a little bit, that's enough glue to back a bow on. Think of this. People back in the day, okay, I'm going to sinew back a bow. So I break out the double boiler, plug it into the outlet in my, whoa, could use a fire, of course. But why go to all that trouble when you don't need to, when you can just have the sinew soaking in kind of a weakish, gluey mixture? And I call it the cold method of sinew backing, and it works fine. I take this small, picture this, I've got all my little fibers, put them into 3 bundles. This is 3 bundles, big bundles, not the little bundles that you'd put on the back of a bow. Put a bundle, a whole bundle, a third of the bow, into my pot of thin gluey mixture. Just let it sit. Just let it sit. Absorb the glue. I'm not soaking it in bare water where I'm going to fill the fibers of that. I'm going to fill the fibers with just water so it's not going to accept glue. I've got a thin gluey mixture in there, and I can just pull them out, 3, 4, 5 fibers, as many as I need for a particular spot, align them right, and stick them on, and that's plenty enough. You don't need any more glue. You don't have to have a double boiler. That's my point. You can get back to the day where the native person would have a ball, I keep hearing the goldfish, they're voracious, a ball of glue in their mouth, take some sinew, chew it out, and just a combination of the spit and that ball of glue is enough. Stick on the ball. Yeah, something to think about. Just soak your fibers in there. I have taken my fibers from I had a bowl, backed, a heavy layer enough to warrant bow breaks. I'm not going to throw that out. I'm not going to toss it into the woods and let the coyotes chew on it. I'm going to pull that old sinew off that bow. I'm going to separate the wood as much as I can, because if you size it, you're going to pull wood off too. Take that whole layer, roll it up, put it in a Ziploc bag with some water, just let it sit. That sinew that you use to back that bow already has the glue in it. You don't even need to add any more glue to that. You've got this bag with minimal amount of water. You can then pull those fibers apart when the glue is softened up by that water. Just put them back on another bow that's sized. You have to size it correctly. Simple. I think I'm not sitting in this house with a hot plate and electricity and metal pans and all this stuff. How can I sinew back a bow with a minimal amount of material? And it translates into an easy way to sinew back. And it's probably more authentic than a hot plate and a steel pan, you know? I'm just going to soak the fibers water. If you have extra, which I've never had extra, usually it works out I don't have enough prepared. So prepare more than you need. But if you do have extra, you take those fibers in that thin gluey mixture, Ziploc bag, kind of squeeze the air out, throw it in the freezer, throw it in the refrigerator, save it for years, pull it out, put it in a bowl of hot water, not super hot, just hot. It'll reliquefy, pull them out, stick them on a bow, just that easy. Fletch an arrow, make it easy on yourself. But I'm studying these things. This, hello Ben, this is your bow. It's not 56 inches long. 53 and a half. I knocked 1.25 inches off of each limb. So at 53 and a half inches, it is now in the range of horse bows. I couldn't let it pass out of my hands at 56 inches long. I'm not going to water down this form of bow. In that little Osage one right there, talking to me, leaning up there, I'm looking at it, and I had bows laying up there, and it was like, what are you doing? Making it user-friendly. Your little 56-inch friend, user-friendly. And that Osage bow was saying, pish-posh, it shall not be a friend of mine. It's a fake ball. It's too long. What is this user-friendly? It is what it is. It has to be a stiff ball, short ball. Fact is, if you can draw a 70-pound ball, William Tell style, you can draw to 20 inches beyond 70 pounds. You can yank back with a greater force, so these little bows make sense. I shoot a 40-pound ball. Well, if you're going to shoot a short draw ball, you don't make it 40 pounds, make it 55. You can do that. Give it some oomph. Give it some character. Give it some cajones. Then it will be a real bow. Right, Beaver of Wisdom? I'm not strange. I'm, what is that word? Eccentric. But that's about it. You have now hidden knowledge. It's not anywhere else except if you find another one of my videos. The cold method of sinew backing, the easy method of sinew backing, not using way more glue than you need. Freshly sinew back glue, and you waited 2 months minimum. You draw it back, you hear the cracking of the glue. You're frightened, but you shouldn't be. It's because there's too much glue in there. These bows, the first time they're drawn all the way back, are not going to make crackly sounds because I didn't use too much glue on them. Anyway, Errol, if you're listening, I've given some thought. You know, the serviceberry. And I'm wondering, well, if it's a propeller twist you're worried about, I'm going to join that with another question I had from somebody. If you have run out on the belly, well, you have a bow failure. And for the life of me, I really can't think that if you were to take a propeller twisted piece of wood, now if it's green, you can get whatever ganks out of it, you know. We're talking maybe propeller twist here. That if you don't split it, but you shape it, so it's a bow, but the grain is propeller twisted, but it's still shaped like a bow, you're probably not going to have any problems with it. And getting back to the mindset of the originals, you know, they're probably not going to have bows stacked in every corner and hanging on the walls. They're going to have a bow and maybe a stave or two, maybe another bow. I don't know. I'm not going to put words in people's mouths. But I must have a serviceberry bow, or I must have a cherry bow, or I must have a yew bow, and there's other bow woods around, but I must have this kind of wood because of the mojo, because this wood speaks to me. Can't find a straight piece. So I would have to think, and it's an experiment, I would try it. If you have propeller twisted piece of serviceberry, and you just worked it like a regular bow, and by all appearances it has twisted grain. By all appearances, now it's a bias ring bow to some degree. It's kind of a weird thing. Don't get trapped up in that. But if you were to just work that, and it worked out, let it be known. Bring this knowledge back, because they knew it back then too, because I'm sure they would use propeller twisted wood and not try to straighten it with heat. Just work with it as propeller twisted. Let it be known. You know, I'm not going to say, and you can heat bend green piece of wood, you can get a propeller twist out of it. But why? Why is it necessary to get that propeller twist out of there? A long time ago, when I was doing extensive research, and I'm not being sarcastic now, I was doing an extensive bit of research, I saw this bow. It was choke cherry. It was about the size of this Osage bow right here, sinew backed, with, I would guess, maybe 4 tendons. Because of the lack of full coverage, it was not a 3-layer bow. It was barely a 1-layer bow. You could see major cracks running through it. Some of it didn't even go to the end. Choke cherry bow, sinew backed, a lot of tool marks, but it was intact. It didn't have major string follow. It had a little bit. Maybe it was intentional. I don't know. It was a short bow. but it was intact. And I'm thinking, I can make the finest bows. I can make Osage bows. I can put 5 layers of sinew on this. I can have it tailored to the nth degree. I'll go out and shoot a little bit, maybe squirrel hunt or whatever with it. But that cherry bow, that choke cherry bow, and it even had just the string, it didn't have string grooves. It had a notch on the end. You know, probably the easiest way to do it because of Stone Tools made this. Big scratches on the belly, just single notch right on the end. They probably put it over and then just tied it. But what stories could that bow tell? Did it knock down somebody that this person that had this bow was combating? How many meals did that bow provide? That rough looking bow. By all matters, if I made that bow, I would feel funny selling it. See what I mean by this? That little Osage bow. It's going to be a cool bow. Nice little sinew back horse bow. But that rough looking cherry bow, by all the technical measures, not as, and I hate saying this is again kind of sarcastic, not as good of a bow. But that choke cherry bow, no doubt, had way more, pardon my French, badass stories under its belt than this bow will ever dream of having. Something to think about in the greater scheme of things. Have a good one.